Without further ado, I'd like to introduce Martin Newman, the consumer champion, who's going to give our keynote speech today about how well do you know your pandemic customer. Martin, over to you.
Thank you, Anne, and thank you, Robin, and thank you to the charity for inviting me along to talk today. Thank you all for being here for the AGM, and I hope you're going to enjoy what I have to present over the next half hour or so. So if you bear with me 2 seconds, hopefully everybody can see my slides. So yes, as Anne rightly said, I'm going to talk about do you know, or how well do you know your pandemic and post-pandemic consumer, because believe me, in a few months, we will be talking post. This will all seem like a dream or maybe a nightmare, who knows, but we're coming through it. Just before I start, a little bit about me, just in case the Amazon delivery turns up, this little man on the right-hand side, which is my gorgeous little dog called Dougal, is likely to go ballistic. So I can't take responsibility for that. That's one of the challenges of working from home. A little bit more about me. I used to run online and multi-channel operations for brands like Burberry, Harrods, Ted Baker, and a company called Pentland Brands, who are a multi-brand owner. Excuse me, I founded a consulting business called Practicology, which we sold a couple of years ago to an American brand called Pattern, who are an Amazon reseller. I'm also on the advisory board of ClearPay, the leading buy now, pay later solution. Some of you may know In Kind Direct, which is a charity supporting thousands of other charities and giving them access to lots of products from retail. And I also had the privilege about 6 months ago becoming the non-executive chairman of the retail arm of the Scouts. So that's a little bit about me. My passion is customer service and customer experience, which you will become evident over the course of the next 20, 30 minutes. I wrote this book a couple of years ago called 100 Practical Ways to Improve Customer Experience. It was shortlisted for the Business Book of the Year Awards last year. They gave it to someone else. I thought that was a bit rude, but hey ho, can't win everything. And so I wrote another book, and that one comes out next year. So we'll see if I can be more fortunate next time round. You'll occasionally see my ugly mug popping up on BBC, on Channel 5, on Sky and other stations and other radio stations, talking about retail, talking about consumers and what's going on there. And I have a website called Customer Service Action. So I do call myself the consumer champion. You may want to think of me as a poor man's Martin Lewis. So not quite as well known as Martin, but doing my bit to further the advancement of consumer issues and help brands to become more efficient in how they serve customers. So coronavirus, you might have heard of that. And the first joke of the afternoon is that shift happens. So and in this case, coronavirus was the shift. And of course, that's led to consumer behavior changing. Some of that's temporary, some of it's permanent. I'm going to try and bring a perspective to what's temporary and what's permanent now. So we've obviously had a bit of a new normal over the last few months, and you might well be sitting there thinking that everything's changed and everything will have changed permanently. I'm here today to tell you that it hasn't and that it won't. Some of it will be lasting change and some will be temporary. And I'll try to bring some visibility to what I think that looks like. So red signifies temporary change, green signifies permanent. How we feel has become more important than who we are. And what I mean by that is that if you're into marketing, you normally think of customer segmentation. You think about who you're targeting, the different types of customers. Now it's much more about how you feel. This is my lovely wife, Laura, and I, back in the end of August. We managed to get away for a week in the Algarve, but along with everyone else on the plane, and for those of you that traveled at that time, you know, we did find it a little bit harrowing, but we made it nonetheless. Whereby my two beautiful daughters, Saskia on the left and Antonia on the right, would not step foot anywhere near an airplane anytime soon. And I think it'll be some time before they do so. I did some research of 2,000 consumers back in March and April to find out how the pandemic was affecting their mentality and how it might affect their any changes in behavior. And this was a question about using changing rooms. And it was about who wouldn't use a changing room in a fashion retailer in the future. And I highlighted the 18 to 24-year group because they, more than almost any other group, said they weren't going anywhere near a changing room in the future, or at least a significant percentage of them. So that gives you an idea that actually the pandemic's had a bigger impact probably on younger consumers than it has on people my age group in my mid-50s. We've shifted from discretionary spend to essentials, and many of us will have experienced this at some point over the last 5 or 6 months. Completely ridiculous behavior, in my humble opinion. You know, panic buying, toilet roll, and whatever else. even just a few weeks ago when we were going into this latest period of lockdown, and I mean, my wife and daughter went to Costco literally a few days before the lockdown was announced, and there wasn't a single toilet roll in sight in the store, which is just crazy. Work from home has obviously changed many things. My perspective is work from home is not going to be permanent. It's going to be temporary, but it's going to be, the permanent shift is going to be, we're going to move to a hybrid model. So I think more and more of us will end up spending half of our time at home during the week and half of our time in the office, for those of us that do work in offices. So I think we're going to move to more of a hybrid model. And excuse me, obviously supermarkets feel busy. You may have seen already on the news this afternoon, the biggest prevalence of COVID spread in the last few weeks has been in supermarkets. Surprise, surprise. So a lot of us have got used to ordering our groceries online and having it delivered to our house. There are many consumers who have bought for the first time online during the pandemic. And grocery as a percentage of total grocery sales, online grocery has doubled from 8% to 16%. So prior to pandemic, 8%, now 16%. It's not going to go away. It's only going to increase. Many sectors have been affected by work from home because for those of us that like going into a spinning studio, you can't do that anymore. Some of us are fortunate enough to have a Peloton at home, and therefore we've transferred to having our workouts from home. And in the future, gym and leisure centre owners will have to have a hybrid model where some people come and use the facilities physically and some engage digitally from their house because that's how they prefer to do it. You may not know this, but online conversion rates, so the percentage of customers that buy online on average on a retail website is anywhere between 2 and 5%. Why is that so low? Well, this is one of the reasons why it's so low, because you get carded when you're not in. So going back to pre-pandemic, you weren't in control as a consumer of knowing when your order was going to be delivered, and you had the stress of wondering about what happens if I have to try and get it delivered again or go to the post office, or if I don't like what I want and I have to return it. And that's why many people choose click and collect. Of course, working from home changes that because we're all having dozens of deliveries probably. If you have two teenagers like me, it feels like dozens of deliveries every single day coming from all the different fashion retailers. Work from home also impacts what you sell. So retailers have not been selling many of these products. And it's become a bit of a joke over the last few months about people who are on a Zoom call wearing a shirt, and what are they wearing underneath? They're probably wearing their boxer shorts or their gym wear, their lounge wear. So loungewear has done really well because we've all wanted to feel more comfortable, but formal wear has dived. It's been a total disaster for any brands that have been selling formal wear over this period. However, I really believe that from March next year, we're going to move on and things are going to change. And I'm terming the coining the term even, revenge consumption. Because I think as consumers, we are going to go mad. We're going to over-index on all the things that we haven't been able to do, whether that's clubbing, pubbing, going to restaurants, getting on the plane, going to Benidorm, going to Marbella, or whatever it happens to be, but also buying products. And as we get to go out more to events, to weddings and everything else, you will see the return of formal wear during that period as well. Now, of course, as we've been working from home, we've been staying more locally, we've been working more locally, and we've been shopping more locally. And that has led to the rise of, independent retail. So you've got lots of independent retailers on the left like that. And then you've got the local Londises. I live in Hadley Wood, a nice little leafy village in North London. And this is incredible what this couple have done. Vipal and Manoli, who run this store, they've turned it from, it's only got about 200 square feet, and it feels like going into Tesco because there's not a single thing that they don't stock. They've done a brilliant job broadening the range at a time of need when we've all, needed to have this facility on our doorstep. They've been delivering products to consumers who've had to shield, who've been self-isolating, and they've really become a service provider in the local environment. And I believe that as consumers, we will pay them back with our loyalty for many years to come, and we'll continue to spend more with them as time goes by. As a brand, you need to be where your customers are, and brands need to be where their customers are. So in case you didn't know, I talked about grocery retail earlier. Total retail prior to the pandemic, the percentage of retail that was online was 19%. These stats come from the Office of National Statistics. 19% of all retail online as of March of this year. Now it's 26%. So it's grown 40 to 50% in that period. It's not going to go away. It's softened there, and it will continue to grow incrementally. So it's now a much more significant percentage of total retail. Now, being where your customers are, if you are in the world of fashion, and for those of you that have charity retail stores where you sell a lot of clothing, this might be an option for you. So there's a company called Tried who have electric bikes, and they're now allowing retailers to open up their store stock to deliver to someone's home, to give them 15 minutes to try something on. And if they like what they've tried on, they can buy it. If they don't like it, they can send it back. So again, it's very much about putting the customer in control, but it's about using technology to deliver that experience. And of course, love them or loathe them, you can't get away from them. The A to Z of retail, Amazon. You can buy anything from Amazon, and I'm sure many of us have benefited from that during the pandemic. So like it or not, they're here to stay. This delightful picture is me in New York in the CoverGirl store. I do a lot of mystery shopping, and I was in New York last year. I was in many cities around the UK, and I was interviewing consumers as well as going in and trying to find out who had the best customer experience. CoverGirl are in the beauty space, and this is their first store. They were a brand that used to sell through other people's stores, and they're using basically augmented reality, virtual reality, so I could pick up a product and I could see what a lipstick or another makeup would look like on me without me actually having to physically try it on. These are just some of the ways that retailers will improve their experience. This is a retailer in Colchester called Best Days. It's a vintage retailer. And what I love about this store is you can probably just see they've got a little coffee shop there in the corner. So they're selling vintage wear. They've got tea and coffee. You can come in, have a scone, have a cup of tea. But what they do on a Friday is they clear out the store. And what you can't see is in the back of the store over here in the left-hand corner, there's a stage and they have live bands. So they're looking at ways of how they maximize essentially the revenue and the purpose of the store over the course of the week and finding new ways of engaging with the consumers during that period. No reason why any of you charity stores couldn't do something similar. I think, I mean, I don't want to offend anybody because I'm sure there's somebody out there that's got a better store, but this is the Shelter store in Coldrops Yard in King's Cross, and it's fantastic. It's as good as any retail experience from any national retail chain or any other independent retail chain you're likely to have. Brilliant visual merchandising, tells the story. It's just such a really nice experience. So if any of you haven't been there, I urge you to go there when the stores reopen in December. Consumer sentiment is changing, and one of the brands that I think does a brilliant job when it comes to purpose is Timpson. So many of you will have had your shoes rehealed, your keys cut, and so on and so forth at a Timpson store. You may or may not know that they provide an environment for prisoners to be rehabilitated, ex-prisoners, of course, not current prisoners. That wouldn't work. And I really love this. I saw this outside one of their stores one day. If you're unemployed and you need an outfit cleaned for an interview, we'll clean it for free. Now, they also happen to own a dry cleaning business, but they weren't promoting a dry cleaning business. They were just saying, if you need our help, we're here for you. They're a very community-focused business. They have no layers of management. So they basically have the people that run the business, and then they have, which is the Timpsons, and then they have the people at the front line who are delivering the experience. And they very much put, in my opinion, purpose before profit. If you put profit before purpose, the profit doesn't come. If you put purpose first, the profit definitely follows. And another brand that I think does that really well is Hotel Chocolat. So they put planet before profit, and you'll see that they're talking about 100% of their packaging is going to be compostable, reusable, or recyclable by 2021. None of this kicking the can down the road, you know, we'll be socially responsible by 2050 or 2030. You know, it's a genuine, realistic target that they're going after, and I'm pretty confident they will deliver it. The age of consumerism, I believe, is dead, not for all, but certainly for some. And what I mean by that is we're kind of moving into an era where I believe we move away from just buying stuff because we know we can do it. But of course, we have the world of fast fashion. We know the issues associated with that. It's been a lot in the news in the last, particularly in the last 6 months, even with some UK retailers where, you know, people are not being paid a living wage for producing a garment that they're making a lot of profit from. But ultimately, I don't think fast fashion is going away, but I do think fast fashion retailers will find better ways of producing their products so they do pay people the right salary, or they make sure that their supply chain are paying people the right salary. And I think much of that will involve bringing the supply chain back into the UK, away from the Far East, and actually manufacturing here. But we're moving towards conscious consumption, and that's what I was really alluding to. And you might call it the buyerarchy as opposed to the hierarchy of needs, the buyerarchy of needs, from what you have, using what you have, to borrowing something, swapping, thrifting, making, and then ultimately buying. And I think at some point in time, buying might well be the last thing you think of, because you might well be thinking of those other things first of all, because you're conscious of what you're buying. You're moving away from this kind of endless sort of consumerism of just buying stuff because you know you can do it, to thinking and being much more conscious of what you buy and the impact of that on the environment and of the planet. Here's an example of the circular economy. So Farfetch, that some of you may know, are one of the leading luxury marketplaces around the world. They're a UK business, but a listed business in the States. And they created this new site called Farfetch Second Life, which is where consumers can sell their designer bags. They don't actually get cash back. It's very clever. They get a credit that they can use on Farfetch, but nonetheless, it's still serving a purpose, and it's starting that circular economy. What goes around comes around, and repurposing products. You may or may not know that 20% of the UK population is an ethnic minority, and yet a lot of our boards still look like this. So 50–60% of the FTSE boards are all male, are all pale, and are all stale. And yet women drive 70–80% of all the consumer purchasing decisions in the UK. Despite that, there are only 12 female CEOs in the FTSE 350. And believe it or not, that's gone down from 2016. Something has to be done about this. Now, diversity is not just about gender. It's not just about ethnicity and religion. It's obviously about disability. It's about sexuality, and it's about other things. But ultimately, in fact, even if you just talk about disability, there are 14 million disabled consumers in the UK, and most of you will know that retailers generally do a pretty bad job of catering for the needs of disabled customers. What I want to talk about now is, I coined this term. I used this in a Retail Week column I wrote many years ago, about probably 12 years ago now, that customers for life, not just for Christmas. And it was born out of my frustration that retailers generally do such a bad job of customer retention. The focus is always on bringing customers in the door, what we call the top of the funnel, not on what do we do to make sure they come back. And this has to be an opportunity for you within your sector. According to the Harvard Business Review, who probably know a thing or two more than I do, a 5% increase in customer retention leads to a 25–95% increase in profit. Wow. So a tiny percentage increase in retention leads to an enormous increase in the profitability of the business. That's what I would be focusing on. Here's an example of a Scandinavian brand that do this quite well. So I brought some underwear, too much information, from this Swedish brand called CDLP. And when it arrived in the parcel with this little card, now all they've done is fill my name in. But you don't need an expensive CRM solution to do this. You don't need to be spending hundreds of thousands of pounds on technology in order to do this. You just need somebody in your fulfillment center, when they're sending out the order, to personalize the card. And then you give me a 10% discount, and that encourages me to come back. I bought some jeans during the pandemic from Levi's, and I got this little thing through. We've added a little gift with your purchase. We hope you like it. Stay safe. We hope to see you again. And it was a paisley pattern, Levi's mask with Levi's branding on the back. Just great. Tiny little gesture, cost them almost nothing, but a great touch and a random act of kindness that really resonated with me. Not everybody gets it right. I'll let you read this. This is a tweet from Amazon. So, dear Amazon, or to Amazon rather, from Jackie Rayner. I bought a toilet seat because I needed one. Necessity, not desire. I don't need to collect them. I'm not a toilet seat addict. And no matter how temptingly you email me, I'm not going to think, well, go on then, just one more toilet seat. I'll treat myself. So even the Amazon algorithms don't always get it right. This is my local barbers and Foster's in North London. So I have a haircut booked for the 3rd of December. The minute they're open again, I will be in there. That's actually my hairdresser on the left there, called Alex. This is a group of 5 Greek Cypriot barbers, all living in London. Some of them born here, some of them born in Cyprus. 5 Greek Cypriot barbers, and they have 240,000 followers on Instagram. And these country flags here represent all the countries around the world where they go and train other people how to cut hair. They go out on stage in front of thousands of people who treat them like rock stars. And all they've done essentially is cut good hair and posted the content on Instagram and posted some personal messages on there and created a level of engagement. And they've built up this huge tribe of fans, not customers, fans of the brand around the world. Just love it. So I've talked about the fact that shift happens, but if you want to know the future, often, as Albert Einstein said, the best thing to do is look at the past. And I know a lot of you have felt quite traumatized. I know from personal experience, the charity sector has been decimated, like many other sectors, by what's happened during this period. But we are going to come through it. And if you go back to the Second World War, which was the largest global event that we've experienced prior to this, which presumably none of us can remember because we're not old enough. World War II preceded the longest period of social progress and economic growth in human history, 18 years, unbroken, no recessions. I genuinely believe the same thing will happen. I think it's going to take us a couple of years economically to recover fully from this. But once we come through that, I see, a lot of green shoots and a very positive future. Who or what is going to shape retail for the next 50 years? And the one thing I'd be urging you to think about, and I'm sure many of you do already, is who's going to be the most important customer group for you in the future? And one of them is going to be Gen Z. Generation Z, they are going to determine what the world looks like. And of course, this young lady, who probably doesn't need a name, but I'll give it to her anyway, it's Greta Thunberg, or Thunberg, I think she pronounces it, from Sweden, the social sustainability, should I say, and climate advocate and protagonist, who really has driven the focus on that over the last 2 or 3 years. As much as Sir David Attenborough does, this young lady here has probably done more to focus us all on what the impact of our own carbon footprint is having on the environment. And this begins this huge period of change, because I believe that Generation Z will drive more change than any generation previously known to man. I really do believe that. And they will demand that the brands walk the talk and address just a few of the issues that I've talked about today. In case you want to know more, I have a framework for what I think it takes to be a truly customer-centric business. It looks a bit like this. If you go to my own personal website, www.martinnewman.co.uk, you can download it. You don't have to leave your details. There's no data capture. You can just go onto the blog and you can download my customer centricity white paper there, which I think you'll find hopefully is a very interesting read. And this is my framework. You can learn more about it there and what I think all these things stand for and what they can do for your business. Unfortunately, I think we have run over today overall, time-wise, so I probably don't have time for questions now, but I'd be delighted to take them. So if any of you do have any questions, please feel free to email me. You can either email me, martin@martinnewman.co.uk, or martin@thecustomerfirstgroup.com. I thank you very much again to Robin and Anne for having me on today. I hope you enjoyed it. I hope you all keep well and that you all get the opportunity to have a bit of a Christmas with your families, which I think we're heading towards. So best of luck with everything, and thank you very much.